have uglies that we can all identify with, from being too tall, too short, too heavy, too small, too skinny. We're gonna just take a journey together, and we're gonna meet different women who have different uglies that they have either A, learned how to embrace, or B, are learning to embrace. And I feel like what better way to express an understanding of embracing your ugly when I could just show it to you. So I want you to meet a couple of my friends who had to embrace some of the things that you may be struggling with, and we're gonna just go on this journey together to do what? Embrace our ugly.
Hello, my name is Trafonia Bradley Hall, and my ugly is being pregnant at 13.
Hello and welcome to the EYU. We're discussing teenage pregnancy. Today we have Try. How are you today?
Hi, Letitia.
Well, for many of you who may not know, this is my mom, and I technically was her ugly. She's gonna discuss it, and we're gonna be able to be a little bit more personable. She got pregnant with me at 13 years old, and she had me at 14. So, as a teenage mother, explain to them the situation, like, because I know the answer, so this might be a little bit hard, but explain to them your upbringing, like coming up in the house, why was it shameful, stuff like that.
Okay. Well, first of all, my parents, Reverend O.W. Williams, and with the Reverend, you know that he was a pastor. So we was raised up in the church, and at that time, we was also belonging to a Pentecostal church. My mom had moved on. And when I got pregnant at 13, it was a lot of shame put on. With that came along the shame, the guilt, the disappointment from my parents, who I can truthfully say my father loved me in spite of. When Letitia was born and we went to just a little incident of that, we brought her to the church, to his church, New Salem Primitive Baptist Church, and my father holds her up in front of the whole congregation and said, she's not a bastard child. She is a child of God. And to me, that was the most powerful thing that my father did. But going back to in the church, of the shamefulness of being pregnant at that time, I was set aside from the church. If I could go to church, but I had to sit on the back row of the church. I couldn't communicate with anybody, and that made me isolated from church. But it was a hurt that I felt a long time, a long time, with being pregnant at that age, at 13. My mom told me if you put on those big girl's panties that you was gonna carry your baby. You would not have an abortion, that you would carry her and she would be your responsibility. And I thank my mom for that. Even though other people wanted me to abort her at 13, I thank God that I didn't do that, because look what God has right now.
Thank you, Grandma.
So it's an honor that even though at that time it would look like a mistake, actually turned into something that's very positive today. From my point of that is that you never know what the jewel that God gave you. And the reason why I say that is because after I had her, I married her father. After I married her father, I conceived her brother. But come to find out, her brother only lived to be 14 months old. But during that time, the doctor said that it was impossible for me to have any children. And why was she here? And today we can see the results. Her brother passed on, but she is here. And I thank God for that, because what he found out is that my body automatically rejects, no matter what it is. It says it's a foreign agent when I conceive, that it just automatically say get rid of it. But through all of that, what I went through at 13 years old, out of that ugly came my beautiful daughter.
So try not to cry today. So I do goofy stuff to keep from crying, because people really don't understand the story. That even though I love my dad, who has passed away, my father was very abusive.
Yes.
So a lot of times I credit my mother for teaching me the slogan that I had when I first started my company 10 plus years ago, and it was to go beyond what you see. Because to look at her, She was small framed, you know, she's with my dad trying to make the best out of the worst situation. And she taught me how to go beyond what I see to see something that was even better. She never disrespected my father in my presence. She never said anything bad about him. Now, she said stuff bad about him to other people, but never to me. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized how poor we really were. And I just want to give y'all this one example of my mom taking something so ugly, an ugly situation, and making it so beautiful that it wasn't until I got older that I realized we were poor. There's two incidents. One, we lived in Midway, Florida, and my mom said, tonight, Tisha, we're gonna have cake for dinner. And I was really excited that we're gonna have cake for dinner. And I had an easy bake oven with the two little tin pans. And she had one cake and I had one cake, because all you had to do was like add water. You didn't have to add a whole lot of stuff. And it was like a little microwave thing that you cook the cake in. It wasn't until I got older it dawned on me we had nothing else to eat. She did not tell me, you know, like, Tisha, we don't got no food in here. She didn't do that. She made it the most ugliest situation, the most beautiful situation. Oh. Then another incident of how learning how, in spite of what something looks like, you can always find light in a dark place. I came home from school one day. She already warned me, Tisha, we're gonna go camping tonight in the house, right? So I'm really excited. We're gonna go camping. She started lighting candles and everything before it got dark. So she lit some candles and she was like, we're gonna take a bath. I don't know if y'all know them little basins. So it's the silver basins that a lot of our grandmothers would cook greens and stuff in. And she put water in there. I remember her boiling the water, but she wasn't running the water from the house. The water was coming from a water hose outside. And she poured the water in the thing and we were taking a bath. I promise y'all, it wasn't until I got in my 20s or 30s and I was just thinking about it. We didn't have lights. And we did not have running water. But we had gas, so that's how she was able to heat up the water so I could take a hot bath. And so, being a teenage parent that my mom was, she made sure that I did not make the same mistakes she made. And I oftentimes say, a lot of times in our community, we always speak of generational curses. And I don't always believe that. Some things are just generational silence. When you break the silence, you break the curse. My mother let me know this is not what you want. You don't want to have a kid at an early age. You don't want to be a teenage mother. You're not going to prom. You know, stuff like that. If they can't take care of you better than I can take care of you, then maybe you should wait. And so, being now that I am going to be 40 this year and my mom will be 54, that's why she looks so young and fabulous. What is something, if you had the opportunity to tell a young girl who's afraid right now, who's going through some of these same things, who people say abort the baby, or even the church, that's, I mean, literally, if you hear some of the stories that my mom tells, it's dramatic and it's damaging mentally. But how were you able to survive? And I know people will say, oh, God gave her that. But at the same time, you're looking at people who say they believe in God, and he was okay with you being ostracized pretty much in a ministry. But what would you tell that young girl, that young mother out there that's like, man, I screwed up, trying to hide the pregnancy, should I abort the baby? Like, you have 30 seconds. What would you tell her?
In 30 seconds, I would tell her, God makes no mistakes. There are none. And if He allowed that baby to be placed in your womb, then treasure it as a gem. Because it can be, as I say, like my daughter Letitia Anderson today, it can be so much that you can look back over your life and say, where would I be without her? Because she was my positive. People want to know what was that drove me, that kept me sane. Is because of my daughter, what the gift that God had gave me. Was I afraid? Yes. Was I terrified? Yes. But to grow up in the situation that I grew up in, I learned to endure, to think positive, even though it was bad, to still think positive. And to be encouraged. Don't feel like you're lost. Because all of us, every one of them that say that you haven't made a mistake, have made a mistake. They just don't tell you about it. But all of us have made mistakes somewhere down the line. And if they look back, if I could share just a few seconds of my mom. When my mom started telling me her story is not far from mine. My mom cannot watch the picture Color Purple to this day, because that's what my granddaddy did to her. Is when he came to get her, he brought a cow and 2 donkeys. That's how he got my mom. Not my father, but her first husband. So her experience of life was at 13 years old. She didn't know how to cope with that. So life kind of repeated itself with me, her baby daughter. So with that, we have learned how to grow from that.
So listen, this EYU moment was a little bit more touching and more personable, but because a lot of times people want honesty. And I often say my mother and my grandmother taught me true love. My grandfather left my grandmother for years. And when he got sick, she let him come back. And it was like, girl, you know, how do you do that? And we had to respect who he was in the house. My mother taught me that no matter what it looks like out there, no matter what it smells like, at times no matter what it feels like. I tell people this all the time when I talk in different group settings. A lot of you are angry with your parents because you feel like they could have done better or they should have done better. My mother survived. She lived in survivor's mode so I could live. And you'll understand that. There's 2 perceptions of a jungle. Somebody can look at a jungle as a paradise and another person look at it as death. It's all in how you look at a situation. If you understand that some people are just, all they know how to do is survive. That's it. All I know how to do is survive. My mother had to figure out how we was going to make it from day to day and keep herself alive and sane, that I can enjoy life. But by God's grace and mercy, that there are a lot of things I didn't see because she didn't allow me to see them. And so today in this moment, I know it's so many of you out there that just feel like, man, I just want to give up. You know, I hear so many people say, I'm a single parent, I'm a single this. And do you know you could still be a single parent in a 2-parent household? Doesn't mean both parents are active. And so I didn't grow up hating my father because my mother wouldn't allow me to hate my father. So you got to understand, hate takes more energy than love. So today on the EYU, and I don't want to leave on a sad note. I don't want y'all to, you know, kind of feel bad for us. Because, honey, we made it. We looking good. Yes. So we want you to embrace these things, because in that came growth. In that understanding that if y'all stop all this secrecy and just tell somebody, it makes life a lot easier. So today on the EYU, we want to thank Miss Trafonia for coming and being personable and making me cry. And I want to thank you guys for taking this moment to understand that you can go beyond what you see, to see what it is that you really see. When you embrace every aspect of who you are, that's the ugly, that's the good, that's the bad, that's the uncertain. Those are the things that push you. Those are the things that say, in spite of, I will. Life said I was a statistic. Life said that I would have hurdles above all. Life said I would repeat the same cycles my mother repeated. I didn't have my first kid until I was 27 years old. Because she made sure I understand that she survived so I could live. So before we end today, we just want to let everyone be encouraged, be empowered that you can evolve. And we love you out there.